A Chicago blues legend challenged Prince to a guitar battle in front of 150 people. "I'll eat you alive in blues," he said. Prince smiled and said one word. Try. What happened next became the stuff of legend. Because sometimes the greatest victories aren't about winning. They're about earning respect from someone who didn't think you deserved it. August 1983. Chicago South Side. The Crossroads, a bar where real blues lived. Dim lights. Smoke. A tiny stage, an audience that knew fake in 3 notes. Prince was between tour stops. Just finished 18,000 fans at the Rosemont Horizon. Now he wanted real music. So he wore jeans, no makeup, nothing flashy. Just another face. He walked in at 11 p.m., ordered a drink. On stage, a guitarist in his 50s playing with his eyes closed, making his guitar cry. Prince watched. This was Truth. The guitarist was Eddie Washington. Big Eddie, 41 years playing Chicago blues. Jammed with Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Buddy Guy. Never left Chicago. Blues lives in these streets, he'd say. Eddie took a break, came to the bar. Didn't recognize the young man 3 stools down. Just saw a kid 25, slight build, drinking quietly, watching the stage with intensity. "You play?" Eddie asked, a little. "What instrument?" "Guitar, mostly. Some piano. Drums when I need to." Eddie raised an eyebrow. "Guitar, huh? What kind?" "All kinds," Eddie smiled. This kid had confidence. "You any good? I do okay?" "Chicago blues." Prince paused. "I've played some blues," Eddie laughed. Not mean but dismissive. "Played some blues. That is cute. Let me guess. You play that rock stuff, that pop garbage on the radio." "I play what feels right." "Blues ain't about feelings, kid. It is about truth. You either got truth or you don't. Most people don't." "You are right," Prince said calmly. "Most people don't." Something in his voice made Eddie look closer. This kid wasn't intimidated, just certain. "What is your name?" "Prince." Eddie blinked. "Prince." Why did that sound familiar? Then it hit him. The posters around town, the concert at the Rosemont Horizon. That Prince. He looked again, without the makeup and costumes, just a regular-looking guy. But yeah, that was him, the pop star, the 1999 guy. Eddie's smile got wider. "You are that pop Prince, right? The one with the synthesizers and the fancy videos?" "That is me." "Huh. So what are you doing in a blues bar?" "Little out of your element, aren't you? Just listening, learning." Eddie shook his head. "Kid, you can't learn blues by listening. You gotta live it, suffer, earn it." "You are probably right. I am right." Eddie stood up, feeling bold, feeling like putting this pop star in his place. "Tell you what. You think you can play blues, prove it. Let's have a little battle, me and you. Guitar, right now. Let's see if you got anything real under all that pop shine." The bar went quiet, not completely silent, but enough that the challenge hung in the air. Big Eddie versus some young guy. A guitar battle. People turned to listen. This was the Crossroads. Guitar battles were sacred. Maybe once a month, always memorable. Often brutal. Prince looked at Eddie. "You sure you want to do this?" "Kid, I've been playing blues longer than you've been alive." "Yeah, I am sure." "Okay." Prince stood up. "Let's do it." Eddie grinned. This was going to be fun. Put this pop star in his place. Show him what real guitar sounded like. They walked to the stage. Eddie picked up his worn Stratocaster. Seen better days, but sounded like heaven. The owner handed Prince a Gibson AS-335. Not Prince's usual guitar, but he'd made it clear early in his career he could make any guitar sing. The drummer stayed on. Bass player, too. They backed both players. Eddie addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves a challenge tonight. This young man thinks he can play blues. I am going to show him what blues really sounds like. Then he is going to try. And we'll let you decide who is got it." The crowd cheered. This was why they came to the Crossroads. Real music, real competition. Prince adjusted the strap, checked tuning, looked completely calm. Eddie noticed. This kid wasn't nervous, not even a little. Interesting. "I'll go first," Eddie announced. "Show you how it is done." Prince nodded. "Sounds good." The drummer counted off. Eddie started playing. Classic 12-bar blues, E minor, clean at first, showing control. Then he added bent notes, vibrato, call and response with himself. The crowd nodded. This was Big Eddie. Prince watched, studying how Eddie used space, built tension, let notes breathe. Have you ever watched a master at work and realized you are witnessing something earned through decades? That is what Prince saw, and he respected it. Share this story if you've ever had to prove yourself to someone who doubted you. Because what is about to happen isn't about ego, it is about respect, about showing that greatness exists in unexpected forms. Eddie played for 10 minutes, 10 full minutes of blues mastery, every trick from 41 years, every technique learned from legends. B.B. King butterfly vibrato, rapid, precise, making single notes sing. Albert King bends, pushing strings until they screamed. Quotes from Muddy Waters' Howlin' Wolf paying tribute to those who taught him. Fast runs that made people wonder how fingers move that quick. Then slow, mournful bends that made people want to cry. Pain, joy, anger, hope, loss, triumph, the full emotional spectrum. The crowd was transfixed. Some swayed. Others sat completely still, afraid to break the spell. A few had tears because Eddie was playing their lives, their struggles, their stories through 6 strings and an amplifier. This wasn't showing off. This was testimony. Eddie bearing witness to every hard day, every broken heart, every moment that had led here. When he hit his last note, a sustained bend that seemed to go on forever, the room exploded. Applause, cheers, standing ovation. This was Big Eddie at his best. Chicago blues at its purest. Eddie unplugged, breathing hard, sweating, smiling. He looked at Prince. "Your turn, kid. Good luck." Prince plugged in the Gibson, checked volume, adjusted tone knobs slightly. The room was still buzzing from Eddie's performance. Some people were convinced this was over. Eddie had just played the performance of his life. What could this pop star do? Prince closed his eyes, took a breath, started playing. He didn't play 12-bar blues, didn't try to match Eddie's traditional approach. Instead, Prince played something different, something that started as blues but expanded. He opened with simple minor pentatonic, slow, deliberate, each note given space to breathe. But the way he bent notes, the precise pitch, the emotional weight, showed he understood blues at a molecular level. Then he started adding layers, jazz chords, funk rhythms, rock power, but always rooted in blues. Using blues as foundation while building a structure that incorporated everything he'd learned from every genre. Prince played faster than Eddie, but it didn't feel like showing off. It felt necessary. Like the music demanded that speed. Harmonics rang like bells. Chords that shouldn't work somehow did. Then about 90 seconds in, he did something nobody expected. Started playing with his teeth, not as gimmick, as actual technique, bending strings with his mouth while hands did something else entirely, creating 2 guitar parts simultaneously. The room went silent, not from boredom, from disbelief, from witnessing something they'd never seen. Prince played for 3 minutes, just 3. But in those 3 minutes he showed Eddie, showed everyone, that blues wasn't a museum piece, wasn't frozen in time. Blues was alive, evolving, expanding. He showed you could honor tradition while pushing boundaries, could respect the past while creating the future, could be authentic to blues while being authentic to yourself. When Prince played his final note, he didn't milk it, didn't hold it forever, just let it ring naturally and fade, then opened his eyes, unplugged. Look, Eddie stood there, guitar in hands, mouth open, 41 years. He thought he'd heard everything. In 3 minutes, this kid showed him sounds he didn't know existed. The crowd was silent, then someone clapped, slow. Then another. Within seconds, explosive applause, and Eddie put down his guitar and started clapping too. "You win," Eddie said. Everyone heard. "You win, man, you are from another planet." That wasn't just blues, it was everything. "How do you do that?" Prince smiled. You taught me. Just now, I listened to everything you played, learned from it, built on it. That is what music is." Eddie laughed. "With genuine appreciation, I thought you were just some pop star. But you are the real deal. You can play anything." "I try to play truth," Prince said. "That is what you said blues was about. I played mine. You played yours. Both are valid." Eddie felt unexpected respect. Deep respect. "Come work with me," Prince said suddenly. "I've got a studio, Paisley Park. Musicians who understand blues like you come to Minneapolis." Eddie was touched. This was Prince offering him a job. Real studio, real money. But Eddie shook his head. "I appreciate that. Really, but I belong here. These streets, this bar. This is my church. You take me out, I lose something." Prince understood. "I respect that. But you?" Eddie pointed. "You are gonna be a legend. You already are. Tonight, you earned your blue stripes. Nobody can say you don't belong now. Nobody." The next morning, Eddie Washington woke up wondering if it had been real. Had he really challenged Prince? Had Prince really accepted? Had Eddie just witnessed the most incredible guitar playing of his life? He went to the Crossroads that afternoon. The owner let him in. "That really happened, right?" Eddie asked. The owner laughed. "It happened. Everyone's talking. 20 calls this morning from people asking if it is true. Word spreading fast. He offered me a job," Eddie said quietly. "Prince offered to bring me to his studio. You should do it." Eddie shook his head. "I belong here. This is my place." "But Eddie, what you were part of last night, that is going to be talked about for years. You challenged a legend and earned his respect." Eddie smiled. "He earned mine too. I thought he was just some pop kid. But he is real as anyone I've ever played with." By the end of the week, the story had spread throughout Chicago's music community. Musicians started coming to the Crossroads asking Eddie about it. Is it true? Did he really play with his teeth? Eddie confirmed everything. "Every word is true. If you'd been there, you'd have done the same thing. That kid showed me there is always more to learn." Some blues purists were skeptical. Prince, playing real blues, no way. But Eddie defended him. "I was skeptical too. That is why I challenged him. But he proved me wrong in 3 minutes. Y'all can doubt. I was there. I heard it. Prince can play blues with anybody. He earned his stripes." The story reached other cities: Memphis, New Orleans, New York. Every blues community eventually heard. Prince walked into a Chicago blues bar and schooled a legend. Details got exaggerated. Some said Prince played 10 minutes, not 3. Some said 500 people, not 150. But the core truth remained. Prince proved he belonged in blues. If you've ever been underestimated because of your style or genre or how people perceive you, share this story. Because Prince proved that greatness transcends categories. That pop stars can play blues. That respecting tradition doesn't mean being trapped by it. In 1991, 8 years after the battle, the Crossroads put up a plaque, small brass, near the stage. It read, "Where Prince earned his blue stripes, August 1983. In memory of Big Eddie Washington, 1930 to 1990, Chicago blues legend who knew greatness when he heard it." Eddie had died the year before. Heart attack. Died on stage at the Crossroads, actually playing guitar, exactly how he'd have wanted to go. His funeral was packed. Musicians from all over Chicago came. Prince sent flowers, huge arrangement, purple roses. The card to Big Eddie, who taught me that blues is truth. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the respect. Rest in power. Prince couldn't attend. He was on tour. But he called the owner and asked to contribute to a memorial. He paid for the plaque, paid for stage repairs, made sure Eddie's legacy would be remembered. Eddie would have loved that, the owner told reporters. He and Prince only met once, but there was real respect there. That night influenced Prince's music in ways most don't realize. The blues elements that showed up more prominently in his later work, guitar solos that bent and wailed, raw emotional honesty, came partly from that battle. "Prince always loved blues," said Des Dickerson. But after Chicago, after Eddie, it was different, deeper. He'd talk about how Eddie played truth. That became a mantra. Play truth. You can hear it in certain songs. That combination of technical mastery and raw emotion. That blend of respect for tradition and willingness to innovate. That was Eddie's influence. What Prince learned in 3 minutes of listening, followed by 3 minutes of playing. Musicians who worked with Prince later would hear stories about the Chicago battle. He'd tell us about Eddie Washington, recalled a session guitarist, about this blues legend who challenged him and how much he learned. Prince was confident, but he was also constantly learning, always studying, always respecting masters. Eddie wasn't the only blues guitarist who recognized Prince's talent. After the Chicago battle, other legends started paying attention. Buddy Guy heard the story and reached out. They jammed in 1985. Buddy later said, "Prince can play anything. He has got blues in his soul. The real stuff." B.B. King met Prince in 1987. After a brief jam, B.B. told reporters, "That young man can play, really play. He understands blues isn't about notes. It is about feeling, and he has got feeling for days." Eric Clapton, asked about Prince's guitar abilities in 1991, said, "Prince is one of the best guitarists alive. People don't give him credit because he is also a pop star. But if you've heard him play blues, you know, he is the real deal." These weren't casual compliments. These were blues legends, people who'd spent lives playing guitar, acknowledging Prince belonged in their world, that he'd earned his place. And it all started with Eddie Washington's challenge in a Chicago bar. The Crossroads is still open, still hosting blues 6 nights a week, still drawing locals who want real music. The plaque is still on the wall. Tourists sometimes come specifically to see it, to stand where Prince stood, to imagine that night. The current owner, grandson of the man who owned it in 1983, tells the story to anyone who asks. "My grandfather said it was the greatest night of music he'd ever witnessed, and he'd seen everyone. Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, all the legends. But that night with Prince and Eddie, that was special." The bar has a tradition now. Once a year, anniversary of the battle, they host a guitar competition. Open to anyone. Winner gets to play Eddie's guitar. The Stratocaster from that night preserved, maintained, still playable. Eddie would have loved that, musicians say. Loved that his guitar is still being played. That is what he cared about. Not fame, not fortune, just music. August 1983. A Chicago blues bar. A legend challenged a pop star. "I'll eat you alive in blues." Prince smiled, said one word, "Try." What followed was 10 minutes of blues mastery from Big Eddie Washington. Then 3 minutes of something else from Prince. Something that was blues but also more. Something that honored tradition while pushing boundaries. When it was over, Eddie put down his guitar and applauded. Because greatness recognizes greatness. Because respect is earned, not given. Because sometimes the person you think you are going to embarrass ends up teaching you something profound. Prince earned his blues stripes that night. Not because he played faster or flashier or longer, but because he showed Eddie showed everyone that blues is truth. And his truth was just as valid as Eddie's. Eddie stayed in Chicago, played at the Crossroads until he died, never got famous, never got rich. But he got something more important, respect of every musician who heard him play, including Prince. The plaque on the wall tells part of the story, but the real story lives in memories of the 150 people who were there, who watched two masters from different generations, different genres, different worlds, meet on common ground and recognize each other's greatness. That is the power of music. It transcends ego, transcends genre, transcends everything except truth. Big Eddie played truth for 41 years. Prince played truth for 37. And for one night in Chicago, their truths met and created something neither could have created alone. The battle lasted 13 minutes. Eddie's 10, Prince's 3. But the impact lasted decades, influenced Prince's music, solidified his credibility in blues, proved pop stars can be real musicians too. and gave Eddie Washington a legacy beyond Chicago, beyond the crossroads. A legacy as the man who challenged Prince and earned his respect. Today, young guitarists come asking about that night, asking about Eddie, asking what they need to do to earn their blues stripes. The answer is always the same: play truth, study the masters, respect tradition, but don't be afraid to add your own voice. That is what Prince did. That is what Eddie recognized. Truth doesn't have one sound. It has as many sounds as there are people willing to be honest. The Gibson ES-335 Prince played is in a museum now, on loan from the bar, next to a photo of Eddie and Prince shaking hands after the battle, both smiling, both understanding something special had happened. The plaque remains, where Prince earned his blues stripes, August 1983. But the real memorial is the music, the influence, the proof that respect and rivalry can coexist, that challenging someone can be honor, not hostility, that admitting someone is better isn't weakness, it is wisdom. Big Eddie Washington died in 1990, played guitar until his last breath, never regretted staying in Chicago, never regretted turning down Prince's offer, but he told everyone about the night he challenged a pop star and discovered a blues master. "That kid showed me something," Eddie would say. "Showed me music doesn't have walls. That blues can go anywhere, sound like anything, as long as it is true. I am grateful I got to witness that." Thank you, Eddie, for recognizing greatness in an unexpected package. Thank you for challenging Prince. Thank you for teaching him. Thank you for showing us all that respect is the highest form of praise. And thank you, Prince, for accepting the challenge, for honoring Eddie by playing truth, for proving pop stars can play blues, for earning your stripes the hard way in front of a skeptical audience, with a borrowed guitar against a legend who didn't think you belonged. You both belonged. You both were masters. And for 13 minutes in Chicago, you showed the world what happens when greatness meets greatness. The blues is alive, still evolving, still true, still being played in small bars by musicians who care more about respect than fame. Just like Eddie, just like it should be.